Hi guys, in today's video we'll be taking a look at goal setting. So all too often goal setting can seem daunting, but goals don't have to be big and they don't have to be scary. You don't have to be too specific on them. In doing this you'll have a much greater chance of hitting them. So before we get going we need to ask ourselves a few questions, okay? So number one will be really simple. Am I making this harder than it needs to be? Meaning, could you simplify how you achieve this goal and make it much more straightforward? Number two, it goes hand in hand with this. Am I making my goals too big? So while it's amazing to have huge goals, long term, we don't have to look straight to the finish line and to the absolute end game. If we break the big goal down, we'll have a much higher success rate, okay? And that leads us nicely into number three. And I think the most important of them all, are my goals manageable? So to put this into context of, let's say, a company like IBM, they're worth over 160 billion and they're operating in over 170 countries around the world. You know, they would purposefully make their sales staff targets low. You might think that this is kind of odd, given how much of a big company they are. But what that actually did is made the targets easy to hit, and more importantly, easy to overachieve on. So it's really easy for it to instill that kind of sense of winning, and it's going to have a real impact on your state of mind. So the main thing that it can do is kind of alleviate that performance anxiety. So if your goal was writing, for example, why not make your goal just a page a day? So even if that page that you write is completely useless material, you achieve that goal for the day. Whereas if your aim is to write 10 pages a day, the pass-fail bar is much higher and the fear of failure and odds of failure are much, much greater, okay? And you know, fear is something that can hold a lot of us back from really achieving the goals that we really want to do. And what we can use to help us with this, we can take some notes from the ancient Greek philosophy of Stoicism. Might sound kind of boring, but it's actually in part just a system of logic and understanding what we can control and what we can't control. So how do we use this in line with setting our goals? Well, we can start with something translated as the premeditations of evils, okay? So all this means is that you think upon and visualize the worst case scenario. So the worst outcome of if you try to achieve this goal, right? This can be hugely helpful because often the worst case scenario of failing at a goal is nowhere near as bad as the reality. And a simple task we can use will be to first define our fears. So what is holding us back from attempting this goal? Okay, once we've done this, we can look at how we could prevent these fears. Okay, what could we do so that these fears never ever happen? And then lastly, how would we repair that scenario that we are scared of if it came to pass? It will hopefully help you to understand that things aren't that bad and you'll be free to drive towards the goal knowing that you can handle even the worst case scenario, okay? And part two of this task that you can use, and I think the most important, would be summing up the cost of inaction. Okay, so what will happen if I keep putting this goal off or I don't change a particular behavior that I want to change? You can divide this into 6 months, 12 months, and 3-year categories, okay? And just write down the consequences of not going for your goals or changing those negative behaviors. So if you wanted to lose weight, for example, what would life be like if you keep putting off starting to track your food that you're eating and track your calories? And what would the negative consequences of that be down the line in 6, 12 months, or 3 years? From there, you'll get a real boost in your reasons for kind of starting your goals today, okay? And it will just help you, hopefully, to stop putting them off and getting going with them. Hopefully this gives you a lot of ideas on how to define your goals and set yourself up for long-term success in whatever you do, guys. All right, thanks very much.